Now, speaking about, people being disappointed and stuff, Kev, we've mentioned on the podcast a few times before about like, trying new things and people being well, less than pleased about it. Has your opinion has your opinion changed at all over time since, that?
That's a really good question. I don't even know where to go with that one. I I've slowed down.
Hmm.
I've slowed down on my channel. I've slowed down because I've gotten super busy doing work, and like the work from home thing has really just changed a lot because usually I could separate the office where I do like 90% of my 3D stuff from home where I was building up Blender Binge and still hate that name, but yeah, I haven't done anything about that either, the name. But yeah, I don't know. I it's a really good question because I kind of want to do what I want to do,
Hmm.
and I'm still trying to figure out like with like the 30 new channels teaching Blender that are popping up every week now, which I think is good. It's good for the community. It's really good for the software. Um, I kind of trying to like figure out where I fit,
Hmm.
because like I'm such a generalist and I've been like a professional generalist for like 20 years. I'm like I can do like almost everything on a shot. Not that I'm an expert at any of them, but I can like take a shot from a storyboard through to edit, and I'm like, well, what do I do with this? I don't know. So does that answer your question at all, or did I go off on a tangent?
It does kind of, but I do want to pry into this a bit more because over time on the podcast and on the server, you do attack yourself quite a bit. I mean, you say that you hate your name, and you say that you're disappointed that you're becoming slower at making content and stuff like that, and it's always
Yeah.
like very negative of the self. And I feel like it would be interesting just to explore where that's coming from a bit because I get the feeling that when you're seeing all these other people pop up, and especially younger people as well, because we mentioned that before, do you feel like you're worried about being left out of the community in some way?
No, not really, because we've now covered a big range. Like on this Blender podcast, when we were just like the six of us originally,
Hmm.
I was I think Grant and I were on the older side. I think I think I was older than Grant by a few years, and I was like, oh man, I'm like the dad here. But then I was like, whatever, because like it, I was still honestly I still feel like a 25-year-old inside. Like
Hmm.
and everyone who knows me is like, dude, you're like way younger than you like when they find out my age, they're like, no way. But I don't know if I'm feeling I'm definitely not feeling left out. I'm just kind of like I have such a limited time to produce and grow on the outside of what I do professionally that I'm kind of like I guess it just comes from a point of frustration because I have a ton of marketing knowledge. I have a master's degree in education, and I'm not like putting any of that together and like using it on my channel right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, oh, let me just make like a bouncy, fluffy thing that looks cool because I want to do that. Not, and like I do videos that do add things that I learned in other software, things that I've known for years that I'm like, hey, I could do this in Blender. Like that the 2020 or whatever, I don't know, 10, 11, whatever tips, however many space tips it was. I don't even remember what I did, but it was this video on like doing space stuff. And a lot of that came from stuff that I did in Lightwave, like probably like 14 years ago, it still works really well. So I'm like, that's kind of cool. But then I'm like, such limited time now where I'm just like, oh man, I don't. It's like it's like a race, and I'm trying to keep up, and I'm just like, all right, I need to like. So I'm trying to strategize and find a direction. Like I
Yeah.
love Blender, but I also use Houdini and I use Maya and I use a bunch of other things. And I'm kind of like, can I take this, what I know in Blender, and kind of like bridge it into something way bigger? So I'm always just like I laugh at myself a lot because I don't take myself very seriously. Like it's not like necessarily coming from a negative spot. It's more just like you know I've been through the ringer so many times that I'm just like whatever. Like it. it it's just funny to me.
Yeah.
So I've learned especially in producing 3D. Like if you do it for a living and you're constantly having customers and clients come at you and ask for stuff, and like a lot of times they don't know what they want until they see it. So you're going to go through like 18 iterations of the same thing, like tweaking a few pixels here and there, and like they don't even know that there are like 15 shades of blue that are in like a certain spectrum. This isn't even like on their mind. So you just kind of start laughing at yourself and realizing like, all right, I'm just gonna do it over and do it over and do it over. And then also on the other side of that, you realize in your own learning that you you don't know everything. So when you start being lighter on yourself as far as like the humor and laughing at yourself, and maybe it comes off as negative to other people, but it's kind of a coping strategy because you realize like you don't know everything, but like I'm confident in my ability that if somebody throws something at me, I'm gonna solve it and I'm gonna come out with frames, and at the end of the day I'm gonna have a shot. Like it's so that's kind of where I'm coming from with a lot of the stuff that you're reading on the server and a lot of the stuff that I talk about in here. It's just cathartic to me. It's laughing at myself. It's you
Yeah.
know like I used to take myself so seriously where I'm like, oh man, I have to like know everything before I could even apply for a job, or before I have to know everything so that if this one shot comes up, like, oh my god, like if I can't perform on it, I'm gonna get fired. It's like, no, you realize like you reach a point where you know enough about what you're doing that you're confident enough that you can just tackle whatever comes at you. And even if you're going into something and you're like, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, like it becomes funny because you're like, I know I'm going to figure it out, but my brain isn't working right now. So then you like figure out, you're like, it's just it starts to be funny. And I learned that from a guy who could produce like 5 shots in Maya every day, like quality shots from storyboard to completion to going into the edit in one day.
Mm.
And he would just laugh at himself constantly, and I kind of picked up that habit and everything became better.